Okay, I can pick up stuff.
Good.
It started, but okay. Here we are recording.
Thank you. Matt? What? Okay, thank you everybody for being here today. Today is Tuesday, June 4th, 2024, and this is the Cottonwood Heights City Council work session. My name is Mike Wickers and I'm the mayor of the beautiful city of Cottonwood Heights. So our first item on our agenda today is to review our business meeting agenda for tonight. And we'll start with a pledge of allegiance. Like always, Sean, would you be willing to lead us in that tonight? Thank you. Well, the citizen comment period following that. And then we have two public hearings scheduled for this evening. So the first public hearing is in relation to, if you all remember, the legislature passed a law this year that talked about elected officials, executives, anytime that there is a pay increase, even inconsequential, like a COLA or, merit, anything like that has to be discussed or at least allow a public hearing for the public to comment on this. And so, Tim, I'm probably still in your thunder. You want to give some more background on what we're going to do?
Yeah, good introduction on this. This includes statutory and elective and statutory offices. It's not for council members. They pulled that out of the legislation. So this will be a hearing on that. We've included a public notice on this. It's been posted as well, and we have the information that anyone can come and get that. I'll be presenting it tonight. Includes the statutory officers. I'm not included in that because there is no proposed pay increase. This is just a pay increase. What's proposed is a pay increase, and last year COLA was not included in my pay, so that's why I'm not on this list. But we'll be presenting that. There's no decision tonight. It's included as part of the budget next week or 2 weeks from now that you will decide upon. But we do have to have this public hearing on this. That's all I have, unless there's questions.
Any questions from the council?
Has anybody asked for copies?
Not at this point. I haven't.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. The next public hearing for tonight is just the public hearing for our fiscal year 24-25 fiscal year budget that we'll be looking at passing next council meeting in 2 weeks. And so, Scott, anything that you want to? I guess we're going to talk about this more in a staff report. So we'll come back to you and we'll answer questions if you have it on them. But so we will have a public hearing on our tentative budget that will pass in a couple of weeks. And then the only legislative action item for tonight to consider for the council is consideration of resolution 2024-39 consenting to an appointment to the Parks, Trails and Open Space Committee. And I think that's for Brad Buswell. Tim, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, we've included his information in the packet. Brad is really someone who's passionate about parks, trails, and open space. Mike Johnson and I had the opportunity to interview him and meet with him, and then he attends a lot of community events, including some of our open houses, some of our trails events. I've seen him there. He's come to some of our parks, trails, and open space committee meetings. Someone that really has a desire to serve on this committee. I'm recommending approval of appointment for him, and he does a great job for us.
Any questions? And he resides in what district?
District 2.
District 2.
Yep.
Okay. More representation there. There you go. Thank you. Any questions? No. Okay. And then just as an aside, we will not approve a consent or the minutes because they got to us a little bit late. So we'll push those to we'll approve 2 sets of minutes in our next meeting.
Thank you. I was going to ask for that to be postponed. Appreciate that.
So we are thrilled and excited to have with us today members from the South Valley Chamber, specifically President and CEO Jay Francis. And so of all the decisions that I've made since I've been mayor, one of the ones that I'm happiest with is involving this group of people. I have already seen, huge benefit to our city and to businesses. Maybe Jay will come give us an update on how many businesses from Cottonwood Heights have already joined your chamber. But we'll invite you up if you're ready, Jay, and come sit.
You got the whole game. Everybody
coming over to one of these seats and the microphone will capture you. Is that okay?
No, we don't want that.
Yeah, yeah. And
Can
record
I
it.
capture me if I just stand here or stand up? I mean, that way. I
Oh, then you can see the.
Yeah, you can do that. That's
Corey
fine.
looks extra tan.
What?
Corey looks extra tan. Did he just come back from somewhere?
Well,
Just so you can.
I haven't.
Already gave my out all the time for it.
I haven't been
Came up
on
on
vacation
Italy.
for 2 years. Well, he took my vacation time too. That's how we do things. We just roll. So.
Well done.
Thank you for letting us come for a minute. This is something we normally do like in February and March. And Tim and I were trying to get scheduled and stuff and we bumped because you had budget stuff and here we are in June, but we'd like to come and give a report of the previous year. You can go to sleep because Sean's already heard this in board meetings, so is the mayor, but this is gonna be 2023 report and I'll sort of interject some current stuff as well, but I'll just echo what the mayor said. We're just tickled, thrilled to be part of Cottonwood Heights. And it's added some enthusiasm. And I don't know that there's such a word, but I make up words all the time of robustness to what we're doing. So thank you for, again, for letting us come. First of all, we're nothing without our team and we're all here. I said, who wants to leave early? And they all raised their hand. I said, well, you got to go with me then. So, we're missing two, Missy, who's our accountant, we call her our CFO, and Zorm, who's over our tourism, is not able to be with us. But I'd like the rest of them to stand. And this is like trying to introduce your kids and remember their names. But Braden's our director of marketing. Jamie is our managing director and all things chamber. Dana is over our events as well as member services. Corey is our development director. And Chris is our newest, but he's our development coordinator. So you can see we've got a good team. And I've kind of homogenized our staff over the last couple of years. We've got perfection. So I just wanted them to come so you could see why we're really as good as we are. So our mission is connect, educate, advocate, grow. Everything we do, we try to weave that in somewhere, whether it's a luncheon, whether it is a small business education event, or whether it's working on, elements for the legislation.
You're good at brown nosing. You put the mayor's picture up there on Connect. That was on purpose.
Oh, there we go. Good. Thanks, Braden. I got it. So South Valley Tourism is kind of a subset of what we do. It's not part of our budget, but we get it through TRT tax in Sandy. We get some funding, and a long time ago, the hoteliers in Sandy said, "Hey, the rising tide helps all ships," and so we have included hoteliers in the whole South Valley region. And we have 3 of your hoteliers on our board and committee. But what I wanted to point out here is, we spent $84,000 in fund marketing and promoting Ski Utah and promoting Come to the South Valley. And with that, our economic, as well as sporting events, we work really, really closely with Visit Salt Lake and Sports Salt Lake and bring volleyball and soccer and 3-on-3 basketball. We brought cornhole here last year and we were on ESPN. It was not a slow news day, but we were on ESPN. But the return was $38.7 million in economic return. I have tried to invest in this so that I could get that return, but they won't let me. So, but we had over 121 visitors, over 62,000 room nights, and over 20 major events in that sports tourism. Our women in business is just stellar. Jamie heads that up from a staffing standpoint. We have a great committee of business women. In 2023, we held, you can see the events that are there. But it's hard to talk about it without talking about, this year, but they're just, I will put our women in business group and committee up against any other women organization out there. They're just doing phenomenal. One of the things I'm most pleased about is our junior WIB. For a long time, we had 10 or 11 high school girls, seniors that would rub shoulders in the luncheons, have mentors. And last year I said, okay, for 2023, 2024, I want to double it. And they said, we don't have the budget. I said, I'll find it. I'll find the funding. And they said, okay. And so they went out and they got 22, and I think we had 21 graduate. They went through every luncheon. They did a mentoring project. They did a service project. We had a graduation here in April, and 21 of them. And we got to hear from, some of their parents.
How many ages are the junior women?
So there's all seniors in high school.
All seniors in high
Uh-huh.
school?
And we represented all the high schools in Canyons and Jordan School District and a couple of private schools. So it kind of injecting the current year, this year we're up to 25. So, and each of them, when we do graduation, each of them give $1,000 scholarship to a college or university of their choice. We send it, I learned from my previous life, you don't give the kids, you send it to the college. You send it to the registrar's office. So that way it goes to the college.
So they apply in their junior year or they
Yeah,
apply in
so,
their
and
senior?
yes, and so the ones that we just accepted, they were applying at the end of their junior year, and we just met with them 2 weeks ago, and it said, congratulations, you're part of Women in Business as one of our junior WIB. And it's one of the things that you realize, it's helping education and business kind of come together in a kind of a fun way. We have what we call a business institute, and we have kind of 4 pillars with our everyday entrepreneur program, our leadership, South Valley, our business accelerator, and our business boot camp. So just quickly on each of those. Leadership South Valley, we're right about midway through this year's leadership course, but they get to meet once a month. There's a topic, whether it's healthcare or tourism or government or housing, sports, entertainment, and they hear from the experts. This Thursday is on economic development and tourism, and we're meeting at Topgolf, and we're going to be bringing experts in on economic development, on tourism, and they get to hear, from people who are doing it. I wish there was something like this back when I was, kind of coming up through my career. It's not just, they get to go home and say, hey, guess who I met with? And they get to go and have some fun tours. We've toured the airport, we've toured the Delta Center, Real Stadium, ski resorts, and hospitals. So they actually get to walk
We
through
pour
hands-on.
prison together.
We did do the prison.
We did do the prison.
We-
Hey, it was before it opened.
No, well, we did the prison this year with real
What
guys.
else?
in it.
Oh.
Yeah. Somehow I didn't make it.
Talk to you later, Matt.
Okay, all right.
But no, and we went, that same day, we were at the National Guard, and they got to go inside the refueling plant on the ground. But still, something that is really hands-on, and I think that hands-on learning is so important. Our business boot camps is a 2-hour, 11 to 1 usually, with a lunch where the topic is something for small business, about something they need that I took for granted all my years in corporate, because we had our own CFOs, we had our own HR, we had our own marketing department, and they need these tools, and we can bring them assets and resources through these monthly business boot camp. Same with the accelerator, but the accelerator is a course. We call it our mini MBA, and Taylor Randall has said that's fine, just be careful. But it's better than his MBA because it's hands-on. I mean, I can say that.
Graduate here.
But it really is. It's Ralph Little who teaches this with us. He's the instructor. He's started and flipped, 4 or 5 companies. He's taken some to Fortune 500. He's had a failure or 2, and that's exactly the kind of instructor you need. We just had graduation today of the 24 first cohort. We'll start another one in August because we just love paying. But it's because there's demand and people want it. And to go back to the first 2 cohorts and to see where those businesses came from and what they're doing today, it's a testimony to that program. Everyday Entrepreneur, we hold hands with the mill over at Salt Lake Community College. And these are people that are trying to start something in their garage or their basement. They're trying to, they've got an idea, they've got a product, they've got a business plan, or they think they have a business plan. And they went through a 10-week course. And this will sound morbid, but last year we had 2 fall out, and we were happy because they weren't ready. And so we saved them thousands of dollars rather than them going and trying to promote their widget or their business. We saved them thousands of dollars, and we've had that happen in years past, and then they've come back and they've retooled and they're ready to launch, and rather than losing thousands. So that's been a great program as well. Our ambassadors they're our lifeblood. They are our ambassadors. They're out there. They show up at our ribbon cuttings. They're talking to their friends, their associates. And we have a great group of ambassadors that just represents the whole South Valley.
Including my son.
Pardon?
Including ambassador.
Yeah.
I'm done.
We have a public affairs government affairs and public policy committee. In 2023, we tracked 20+ bills. In 2024, it was probably closer to 30. We're getting because of our footprint now, and we're getting more active. It's co-chaired by Stephen Foxley with Regents Blue Cross and Kelsey Berg with the Larry Miller Group. So both have government and public policy in their veins. Stephen was born with it, and it just seems to come naturally for Kelsey. We have a small business committee that helps us stay focused on things that we can do and provide for small business, because that's where we really want our emphasis to be. We have great support from Larry Miller, WCF Insurance, Merit Medical, Zions Bank, but they support us with good corporate support so that we can do things for small business. Our Let's Do lunches are second to none. Just a quick story. When I was first asked to do this, I went to the first Let's Do lunch in October of 2020, and I came away from that saying that'll never happen again. They had a nice little luncheon. They put their business cards in a bowl and drew it out, and everybody said hello and goodbye. I said, no, if we're going to ask people to leave their jobs and take time away from their job or their personal life, they've got to go away from one of our events saying, I learned something, I know something I didn't, I'm smarter, I'm better. And so that's kind of our focus, whether it's a Women in Business or a Let's Do Lunch or any of our events. So last year we had some great presenters with Gail Miller and Sean Bott, Thurl Bailey, Josh Downs, who did a phenomenal job on mental health and mental illness, and then a great tour out at Bullfrog Spas out there in South Jordan, Harriman. Something we started last year that has become wildly successful is Meet the Members. We alternate that with our Let's Do Lunch, where the members come. We let 15 to 20 pitch their company, and then they get to kind of give out samples. But this was something we weren't doing, and the idea was shared with us, and we said, okay, let's do it. We did 3 new things in 2023. 2024 is we're trying to just keep the meat on the bones. So, but we had over 50 businesses pitch, and they love. Fortunately, we're able to use the meeting room next to our offices. They stay afterwards. When fortunately we can go into our office and go back to work because they just stay. They love it. Chamber 101 is just where we invite members, but specifically new members, to come so we can tell them about Chamber Master, which is the software program, how they can connect, they can publish their offers and what they have through our network, and be able to how they can connect with other members. Connect After Hours is one of the 3 things we started last year. Every other month on the last Wednesday of the month, the 4th Wednesday of the month, probably the better way to say it. We get together and they don't want anything formal. In fact, they said, Jay, we don't want you to talk. Just get together, have a little chip and dip and food and some, last month we were at Kona Grill out in Mountain View Village, and Kona Grill furnished the food was phenomenal, and they just didn't want to leave. And I was a little reticent because a number of years ago, I had a really bad experience with business after hours with Salt Lake Chamber, and I don't want that. This has just been perfect. They run it, the committee runs it, and have done, it's been fun, it's been connective. We've done things in the park. You can see down in the bottom left corner, we were at Salt Lake Motor Cars, which is interesting name, but it's all the exotic cars in a place in South Jordan of all. But all these Ferraris and GT40s and Lamborghinis. And I've never been so nervous about people having chip and dip and walking around my whole life, but we didn't damage any cars. We have executive forums in the nose or something that we hold when something seems to be topical that needs to be brought out. A lot of times it'll be around government and what's going on in government. We're going to be planning one here in the next couple of months. I just got off the phone with Steve Starks, and we've got something that will be coming up in the next couple of months that will be topical for the South Valley. And the executive forum is, an invite only. In the know is something we put out. It's not one of our lunches, but it's just something that we kind of need to bring to the forefront. We have 3 golf tournaments. Because of the number of our memberships and golf that is part of their membership. Last year we were at River Oaks, South Mountain, and Glenmore. This month we'll be starting here at Old Mill in just a couple of weeks. And then we'll go to River Oaks in August and Glenmore in September. And I kind of liken this to what Larry Miller used to taught me, that business is like a 3-legged milk stool. Take care of the customer, make a little money, and have a little fun. And we do all 3 of those with our golf tournaments. Shark Tank is another one where we bring education and business together, where we bring the winners, the state champions, if you will, from FBLA and DECA, and have them present their business, their product to a panel of judges. And we award them between $8,000 and $10,000 to first, second, third prize. You go away from this saying, okay, we're going to be okay. We only hear about some of the shenanigans, but we don't hear enough about, the young people that are really making a difference. And we just held this year's a couple of weeks ago. And again, off the charts. Brandon Fugel has been one of our judges for the last 2 years. And he said, if you don't continue to have me come, he said, I will haunt you in your dreams. So it's just something that everybody loves. Our Titan Awards is kind of one of the things that puts us on our map. It's been a hallmark event where we honor 2 or 3 people. Last year, we honored 3, First Lady Cox, Chuck and Crystal Magalette, and Brandon Fugel. And then 2 years ago, we introduced honoring a small business of the year as part of the Titans. Our small business committee said, hey, small business is just as important as some of the Titan Awards. And we said, we agree. And so we put them on the stage with the Titans on that event. We're biting the bullet this year, and we're moving across the street to the Grand America because we've exceeded capacity at Little America. So we're excited. And this year, let's see if I can remember, we're going to be honoring James Clark and Sandy Henry from Meeke, and Keith McMullen, who used to be the presiding bishop for the church for years, but then most recently was the CEO of Deseret Management. So we have a good slate for this coming year. 125 new members in 2023. And since we have been working together, we've added 20. This is old data. It's probably closer to 36 new Cottonwood Heights members. So 1 as of 2 hours ago. So
That is awesome.
Pilates, some Pilates studio.
Knock up Pilates.
So
Love it.
So in fact, we had another, but wasn't from Cottonwood Heights. About an hour before that, we had Crowns Only. We think it's a dental place. So we thought you go to Pilates and then you get your crowns afterwards. So
That's great.
and that's us. So
Yeah.
any
Well, Jay,
questions?
Thank you. So I don't know if the council knows, but I'd like to think that we played a role in when the city of Harriman has almost also joined. Is that okay to say that?
It is. They voted and they have, yes.
Okay, so the city of Harriman has also joined the South Valley Chamber. And I just say that I give Lauren a hard time that, we went first and he followed second. And I know that Jay's pushing with that a little bit to do with that as well, but,
I would also tell you, Mayor Hall invited me 2 weeks ago to go visit her and her city council, so we'll see.
Thanks for bringing your whole team. It's cool to see everybody. That was nice.
Well, this is something we'll do earlier in next year. You'll look for it in February or March. And we're happy to, we hope that that gives you a little bit of a flavor of what we're doing and what we're trying to do and make a difference in. The South Valley is a great, and what you guys have on the planning plate, it's just gonna be fun, you know. So.
I think Jay's staff would probably support this. I don't know when you sleep or when you don't have something popping through your head. But the amount of stuff that you do is awesome, and it's a reason why I'm so thrilled that we joined the family. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Take care. See you guys.
See you.
Thank
Take
you.
Michael to the little.
I will. Great, so we are going to move into our staff reports, and the first staff report that we have on our agenda is a tentative, well, a budget adjustment item, so we're gonna let Scott talk to us about that.
Sir.
Scott, you can only add money to get money, so that we're doing
Yeah.
okay.
This one is one of those where, excuse me, the police oftentimes have to expend some money, then we get reimbursed for it. It comes late. Sometimes we don't know the timing of when that's gonna happen and stuff. So on these, the first item is some Brighton High School rugby overtime. And that's a reimbursement of funds that we've already expended, $1,190. And we've received the revenue for it, so it's offsetting. The number two is DUI and overtime enforcement reimbursement, and that's from the Utah Division of Public Safety. There's actually three reimbursements, one for $4,668, one for $3,179, and one for $5,227, for a total of $13,074. Again, same number of expense and revenue on that. Number three is an on-hill events overtime reimbursement. And this is an event that happened that they requested some police security presence there. That's $2,550 of expense, excuse me, and revenue to cover that. Number four is some police court restitution. So this doesn't always cover all of our costs, but it covers as much as we can get oftentimes. But it's $164, again, increase in expense and revenue. And that's usually damage to police cars oftentimes, but it can be some other things too, occasionally. Number five is police distracted driving overtime reimbursement, again, from the Utah Division of Public Safety. Oops, I have a typo. It says $2,000. It's $8,758. And so the total on this is $25,736 that will all go to the police department. Most of it in overtime, some of it not in the other area. So, any questions?
So we'll have a hearing on this and then decision next 2 weeks from tonight. So.
Any questions,
Yeah,
comments?
I have a question. And I'm planning to get with the chief, maybe just one-to-one here in the next so many days. So I may be able to get clear on this, but just curious. You have DUI, you have distracted driving, and so are there categories that you look for related to road safety? Obviously, DUI and distracted driving is huge. Do you also put, traffic citations in its own category in terms of if you find that you have, gone over budget for expenditures related to that sort of driving problems?
Well, these expenditures are grant funds that are sponsored by the state and Department of Public Safety. So they'll have us do a blitz on DUIs, for instance, or distracted driving, seatbelt enforcement, in which officers will go out and do extra overtime shifts and concentrate specifically on those areas of concern. Now, very often they'll find other violations at the same time, but that over time is what is being reimbursed in this budget amendment. Now, if your question is, when we go out and write citations, yes, each citation obviously has a category of speeding or red light violation, failure to yield, that kind of thing. So all those are categorized and
Thank you. So that's really helpful. So I'm understanding that the state offers grants specifically for you to do blitzes, so to participate related to DUIs and distracted driving. And so this is related to kind of driven, you could say, by grant opportunities. Is that fair in my understanding?
no, that's exactly right. And, we'll do, we just got one for, I think, crosswalk enforcement as well. But they'll offer, X number of hours, and we'll have officers sign up for shifts. And then they're required to make a number of stops within the times that they're signed up to work, and then they concentrate on those areas of concern in an effort to reduce, accidents and injuries and safety.
Thank you.
Do these, I imagine these grants, well, are just for Conwood Heights, right? Do we go and help in other areas, or?
Each municipality is given the opportunity to apply for the grant funding, and so ours is specific to Commonwealth Heights, so.
Okay, awesome. Perfect, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Not for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Don't go too far. So the next item on our staff report is our discussion, our continued discussion from all of the 24-25 fiscal budget year coming up that we've been working on, that Scott and his staff has been working on, that the entire department heads, Tim, everyone's been working really hard on this. And so we're gonna let Scott lead this discussion here for a minute.
I'm not sure why I can't see my document now. No, it was there. It looks like to update itself every once in a while, it decides to look different, so. Pardon me. Okay, I'm gonna make this just a little bit bigger and a little smaller. So, as we go along periodically, we do find little changes here and there. Most of these changes that we're gonna go through here that we made since we adopted the tentative budget at our first meeting in June on May 7th, or sorry, I said June, in May, on May 7th. We reviewed with you last time, and we have a couple other items that we'll let you know about here that just came up. So the first item is we reduced the contribution to the Economic Development Corporation of Utah by $5,000 due to the uncertainty of what's going on with that entity right now. And then we
Just to emphasize, that's not a decision that we won't move forward with this group, but it is a decision that we'll have to do a budget adjustment then if we decide to continue. So we haven't made the decision to not continue with them.
Yeah, because they're, to add to that, their request or invoice to us will come in the spring of next year.
Yeah.
So you'll have some time to evaluate that and determine if you want to fund the full amount or not.
The second item here is that we added in revenue and expense for $72,185 for a grant with Salt Lake County Health Department to fund a community health coalition. And so that's now included in there. And then in the stormwater fund, we increased the stormwater fee starting July 1st, 2024 to match to what we had originally adopted it. So it'll go from $750 to $820 per ERU, which is equivalent residential unit. And we're working with Rocky Mountain Power to get that implemented. And so our target date's July 1. We'll see if that actually kind of comes following through. So anyhow, total of this is we increase revenue by $72,185 in our general fund. We increase expenditures by $67,185. So in the general fund, it's a net positive of $5,000 because of the reduction of the expense up here for the EDCU. And then in our stormwater fund, we increased our revenues by $130,414, and we also increased the expenses by that same amount so that they can have those funds available, and that would still leave us with the $500,000 available at the end of that excuse me, particular year. That when we end it in end of June of 2025. The items that we're still waiting for that we hope to find next week, our final numbers is our final certified property tax rate. And with that, they will also tell us our certified new growth revenue that is controlled by new structures, additions, basements that you finish, et cetera, within the city. And that's all controlled through kind of a combination of the Salt Lake County Auditor's Office, the Assessor's Office, and then the Treasurer's Office in coordination of doing all that with also the State Tax Commission. And so we'll have that next week. And I hope that when I return from being out of town the first of the week, I'll be able to get that out to everybody in terms of what that rate will be and what the new growth will be. And I'll just send out a specific email letting you know what that is, and then incorporate that in our final budget number. One other item that's just a true up, and I'm gonna hurry and run down here to where this is at. I know I'm going through a whole bunch of pages. Okay, in our capital projects fund. So this is page 14 in that thing, but it's going to say page 1 of 2 in the capital projects fund at the very bottom of the page there. But it's actually the 14th page in that packet that I just handed out. So this has to do with our vehicle replacement. So our vehicles that the police for the most part use, it's not every single one of your vehicles, but probably 90% of your vehicles. And then 6 of the pickup trucks that Public Works uses are on what we call replacement. So we utilize them for 2 years. We turn them in when they're 2 years old because we get a really high return rate on that. And that way it keeps our carrying cost, if you will, of those vehicles very low. So we're getting ready to turn in the vehicles that we currently have. That'll happen right after the 1st of July this year. And then we'll start receiving these new vehicles over the course of maybe a couple of months or so there. Depends a little bit on when they're available due to build slowdowns and some other things like that. We need to finance those vehicles over a period of 2 years. So we have to finance the full amount, including equipment and other things that we will be putting on the vehicles would go right in here. We had originally budgeted that at $3,542,666. We need to increase that to $3,549,979. That's an increase of $7,313. That should hold true. Barring any last minute updates that we get. Percentage wise, it's really minuscule, but we need to match that. And then by default, down in this area right down here in our purchase of those vehicles, and it's split up between police here and between Public Works here, we will be increasing that by that same amount, $7,313, so that we can cover the purchase of those vehicles with the equipment and everything that's on them.
So can I add some stuff to this? So with this, we presented this to you in February. We put together a memo, went through all of the details of this with the intention of running this through the budget process, which is what we've done. It's been incorporated in here and then with this minor change. And then at the next meeting on June 18th, we will have the actual approval of the bond for that. We're working on the bond documents right now as we speak. So we started this actually in the end of last year, presented it to you in February, brought it forward through the budget process, and then you'll make a determination on that bond, as well as the budget in 2 weeks to
And-
finalize that
Yeah.
for July 1st.
And we should know the rate at that point in time. It's gonna be around 4.75, somewhere in that range, is the guesstimation at this point in time, but we'll have the final rate on that at that point in time. And more or less what happens is there's a guaranteed buyback. And I think I didn't bring that with me, but it's about 2.6 million. 2.8 million. Remember what it is?
And if you could read that, you're good luck.
2,317,000.
How did you see that?
It was hard. And so there will be, in essence, a balloon payment on that at the end. We'll make 2 even payments at the end of year 1 and at the end of year 2, and then add in the buyback amount that comes back as we sell those vehicles back to Ken Garf to be sold on their end. And then we will pay that off and then enter into a new agreement at that point in time. And that's kind of how that works. The current lease that we have in place, we will get about 1.8 million and a little bit extra back in terms of selling those vehicles back to Ken Garf, and then add that to our payment. Then total payment's about $2.3 million. And then we will pay the current crop of vehicles off as we're turning them in, and that will happen just after the 1st of July. But we'll have all the details of the new financing. That doesn't, on the actual payment end of that won't impact us till 1 more budget year out. Because we make that payment in July sometime, depending on when we close. But that's the plan.
So the bonding amount here, you said the debt proceeds of 3.5 million approximately.
Yeah, 3,549,979.
Does that add up to these 2 numbers below?
It will, once we add in another $7,313.
So you're bonding for the exact amount that you're projecting in the budget?
Yes.
I would add, I've had conversations and other cities are following this. Are implementing similar practices that we've been doing for a while now, that have realized, wow, this is a really, really good way to finance and you know, not have to worry about mechanics, keep cars under warranty. So I mean, there's a lot of benefits, and more municipalities are turning to this model.
Yeah, and the resale is great after 2 years. I mean, it really keeps our carrying costs extremely low during that time, and we reuse a lot of the equipment, switching it over. And so, you know, it's a good win-win, you know, for the residents. It keeps our costs extremely low.
Yeah, so we buy new equipment every other time, so every 4 years. So we keep the equipment, there's just a cost to extracting it from the existing vehicles, and then putting it in the new ones, but there is a savings because we're not buying all new stuff. That equipment, the light bars and stuff will last 2 rotations, so for 4 years. And the reason we do the 2 years, this comes up a lot, and is because those cars are still under warranty, and so we're not paying, you know, the mechanics and any failures or, you know, engine failures or major issues on the cars. So it's still covered under warranty. So that's a big deal. It is.
Are there any, do you want me to go over it in more detail in terms of?
Well, any questions, if the council's okay, no, but if they have any questions, yes.
I would look at this page, that is page 9 in there. It's right after the narrative, page 8 of 8. And it's a good summary that shows your beginning balances, your revenue expenditures, any transfers, projected ending balance, any change in the fund balance. And then it has any restrictions of fund balance itemized down here below. And it makes for a good quick summary of things. But if you want more details, go to the reports that immediately following this.
So remind me, in our stormwater discussion, when we said, sure, let's increase this.
Yeah.
You taking 130,000, you're dumping your revenue and just expense, because we know we already have projects that are gonna eat up that increase.
We do. So what happened is you can see right here, this was what we had adopted. I know that's kind of small up there. This is what we had adopted as in our tentative budget was $1,406,000 for stormwater fee revenue. That increases to 1,536,000. And then down here, this particular line item is kind of a miscellaneous, but they basically use this as they're doing their investigations into what's going on with the existing system, manholes that might need to be raised. As they find things out, it gives them some money to be able to use for those things that aren't specifically already claimed for projects that are out there. This 729 basically covers some personnel costs that get allocated over there, and then some basic operations costs. The 500,000 is for what's that? Supernal Way. There we go. Supernal Way. And then the 367 covers other miscellaneous, capital type costs and or investigative costs that they'll utilize as needed. If they run into things that go above and beyond that, then they could come and ask for some additional funds like we did this year to an extra, I think, 160,000.
For our study, there are a multitude of projects that need to be addressed over time. I mean, we had conversations about the potential of bonding with the stormwater fees. We've decided not to do that. So we're doing this kind of a yearly basis where we do as many projects as we can. But as has been stated, there has been some emergencies that have come up, and they tend to pop up.
All of them we're doing right now are emergency projects.
Yeah.
Well, this could carry forward. This is just kind
Yeah.
of an accounting.
Every
You're
once in a
doing
while, especially with
offset.
capital, we have carry forward because we can't get them done in time or something like that. Something else pops up when we get in the middle of it that we're not expecting. And these do often go into multiple years, so, yeah.
Great. So anything else that we need to talk about, Scott?
The only other thing I would bring up is this currently includes a 3% COLA across the board. There was some discussion on whether there wanted to be any other options for COLA. And so, if that needs to happen or we need to discuss something, change something, whatever, it'd be good to get that information today so we could get something together and incorporate that.
Yeah, I think we've got some time. Let's spend some time on that item, if that's okay. Are you okay with that? Sure. Yeah.
So I want to just, to my colleagues and those that are here, express, Councilmember Highland and I were put on the compensation committee, and so we were given the task of figuring out ways that we can compensate the employees specifically for cost of living adjustments. When it comes to merit, I don't think any of us, I haven't had discussions with any folks on not funding merit in full. And I think the thing that we were trying to figure out, and there's been some bumps along the way, is how do we compensate those that are struggling with the cost of inflation the most? I don't do this often. I know it's hard to believe, but I went and bought a bag of Doritos the other day and it was $6.50. I couldn't believe it. I thought, is that for 3 bags or?
Essential food.
I
like that,
know.
don't it?
Salsa verde Doritos.
Well, that's what I asked Matt. Have you gone grocery shopping lately? It's insane.
It's insane.
If you don't do
And
grocery shopping in your household.
it's hard. And I've got a sibling that is just going into transition to become a public school teacher. And, there's a lot of things that they're just not buying. And so I think our heart, or where my heart was, is to try to figure out how do we, through cost of living, through inflation, again, inflation is hitting everyone equally, but especially those that are probably on the lower end in our city when it comes to pay. And so I've wanted to figure out ways of how can we help them deal with inflation and make it a little easier. I don't want to say that it's easy for anyone, but there was a discussion that I had with Councilmember Highland about the fact that where does that sit? Where's fair? How do we find the fair line and approach? And that's when we try to think outside the box and figure out, are there ways that we can do this that really put the city on good financial footing, while also making sure that we show those that are contributing a ton to our city, but maybe just need a little more help. And I'll just be fully transparent. It was the notion of, if I'm on I'm on a higher pay scale, should you get more because it's harder for you to deal with inflation? I don't know. That's the discussion that we had. So we haven't come to a conclusion. We've been throwing ideas out there, and I think to my colleagues, I think that that's exactly what you would expect for us to go do as we're on these committees, is try to think of ways that we can dice this. And obviously we get feedback from Tim and others on if it's going to work or not. So.
Thank you, Matt. And I want to add to that just a little bit as well. So Scott and myself and Tim had a really good, I thought, positive discussion yesterday. And my reasoning was, in reality, the COLA, how it's set up now is, but by doing a percentage, it's basically merit. I mean, it's basically being treated as merit. And so like Matt just said, the person who's making less is going to get less of an increase, even though inflation hurts them more. The cost of bread is the same for them as it is for every level of our employee. So
But it takes up a bigger percentage of their income.
it makes up a bigger percentage of their income.
There's been sector inflation, which, it's not even across the board.
So we came up with the thought of possibly doing taking whatever we were going to spend on COLA and dividing it between all of our employees.
So everyone gets an equal payment. Obviously, if you're lower on the scale, that'd be a higher
We get
percentage.
a higher percentage. Now, one of the things that came from that in that discussion even yesterday was that would mess up our current compensation plan.
If it's a salary increase, not if it's a bonus.
Well, no matter what we do, what's currently set up in our salary grade levels, I don't know if that's the term, Scott.
Yeah.
But in those salary grade levels, if we do a set amount, it messes up the percentage that they're trying to keep between each grade. And so I didn't get it before yesterday, and I'm like, and I understand it more now after our discussions yesterday. And I know Tim and Scott both feel really strongly that structure is important to keep. And maybe it is for this cycle, but to me, there's something broken that we need to figure out a way to fix. And I don't know if we're there currently in a way to fix it so that it doesn't literally mess up the entire structure as it sits now. But I do think that the approach that we've taken, I think, is really, really positive. So, go ahead, Chief, you have something?
I'll let you finish, but I'd like to offer.
Yeah, no, and I'm okay, go ahead.
You watched for the last several weeks as members of my staff had filed in here, some with babies in hand. Those are some are younger employees. I go to the grocery store if I need to buy eggs or cheese, I think, or Doritos. I throw it in the bag and I think, man, it's expensive, but I buy it because I can. These other young people, they can't. They got to put it back in because they have to buy diapers and formula. This may sound unorthodox, but I represent at least 60% of the city employees, and I've heard the plan. And at the risk of being a villain, I do support the plan because those young officers, those young civilians,
To just add to what you're saying, what we're talking about would actually help the 30 officers, that are on the lower end. They would actually see a bigger increase than what some others would. But anyway, go ahead.
No,
And I think
I recognize that the officers and at the higher end, aren't going to get as much. I've had this discussion with my command staff, and they're okay with that. It also, when we compare pay scales to other cities, those younger officers will show at a higher rate than those other cities because you've given them a higher percentage. But it's also the right thing to do. And I also think the right thing to do is when you have that discussion 2 weeks from now on compensation for executive staff, I would ask you to remove me from that. I don't want to be, I would like you to carve me out and not, I don't think I need any sort of bump or COLA. I want to show my support for my staff and the plan and employees, so.
So I want to address
Yeah,
this.
go ahead.
So I represent 100% of the employees here, okay? And you saw my email yesterday. I have big concerns with this plan. I have concerns with what it does on market structure, with what we're comparing with markets, with other entities. I have concerns about our pay structure. I don't think the pay structure is broke. I understand the need to give to others, but when you combine merit along with COLA, which deals with market trends, the lower end staff members are getting, for example, if they're new staff members in the first 3 years of pay, they would get, if they perform well, they would get a 5% merit. On top of that, they would get whatever the COLA is, which to me deals with a lot of the issues when it comes to cost of living and these types of trends. So you saw my email yesterday. I have concerns with moving away from where we're at. It will be hard to compare markets with other cities when you have a pay structure that's kind of just taken away or modified significantly. So my thoughts.
For sure.
Shared it in email. I would recommend against moving away from that and have you look at what you want with the COLA, but that's where I'm at.
And I just want to say one more thing to my colleagues here. We have also looked at if you took someone that was above 100,000, could you give them a smaller percentage COLA? Could you do a higher if you're under? I just want you all to know we've tried to look at this every way that we can, and we may or may not have found a solution, but just trying to figure out, these are tough times. People are hurting. How do you compensate them appropriately? And is it the right way just to do the percentage as a whole? And maybe it is, but I think hopefully people would think that we were elected to try to at least look at it holistically and think outside the box. And if something sticks, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Right.
And I want to thank Chief for his words. Those were
Yeah,
gracious. Thank you.
Just really quick, people that are close to retirement, this will affect their retirement. They're higher end, but these are their top 3 years. If you take money away from them, this will affect them.
So the problem with that, Paula, is you can't look at it as taking money away. COLA is not something to be planned for. Cost of living is based on inflation. And so looking at it that way, as looking at it as it's also something that's determined every single year by the council.
Yes, absolutely.
We're not saying, hey, you'd planned on this 3.5% bump in your merit. We're not touching that.
Yeah.
This has always been a discretionary number that the council was gonna look at, whereas merit has not been. They know what's gonna go into that number. And this is not that. And what we've done in the last 3 years is really remarkable outside of municipalities. I know every municipality does the same, but in the business world, they don't. No, the business world is not getting 10% COLA the last 2 years to cover all of the increase where, but that's, a benefit of working for a city. So anyway, I understand your point. I really, really do. But it's also, you can't look at cost of living and prepare to how that's going to add to your retirement.
And I want to thank Tim and Scott for guiding us as we think of these ideas to give us kind of how's this really going to impact things, because we're maybe thinking about it more on the emotional side and wanting to
Practices.
kind of what we're seeing on the ground and feeling for people. And that's not always the equation that you're all looking at.
I need to ask a question to listen to everybody. The 1% retention bonus, Paula, does that counts for their retirement?
No.
Okay, so I'm still sure I get this. So if we give everybody a one-time bonus, why does it affect the pay structure?
The COLA does.
The COLA is what?
We're talking about a one-time bonus and it's been squashed as an impossibility. But if you give a one-time bonus, it actually benefits people on the low end more because they get a higher percentage. It's a one-time. It doesn't increase their salary.
How does that work?
So
Because they're already outside of the step?
They don't
Like I
get
hand
merit.
them a bonus check. This
They
is
don't.
just for this year. This is not gonna affect your salary long-term. This is just for this
So-
year.
So what you're saying is in replace, let me.
So this was another
Yes,
In replace of the
option.
COLA, so no COLA.
yes,
No COLA, 2,500 bonus that everyone gets.
whatever.
What
we
that
can
does
afford.
is that impacts, the COLA is built into the pay structure. And so the pay structure moves as the pay structure moves, the salary that goes towards retirement and other things move with that. If you just do a
I
bonus,
know the answer to your question.
Please.
So because the 1% doesn't go to perpetuity. So they get the 1% bump, but it doesn't get added on to their salary.
How is that different than us giving us everybody a $1,500 bonus check? How is that different?
Well, then it wouldn't, so because currently COLA goes to their current salary and
She's-
stays
It's
there.
not a
She's
COLA. It's a
proposing,
one-time.
he is
Thank
proposing
you for
something
serving our
different.
city.
I think, may I just interject? What I'm hearing is that Councilmember Highland is not talking about a bonus replacing COLA, but instead a bonus replacing merit. So
No,
in
I
the-
think the other way.
No,
She's
the-
talking
the
about a
merit
bonus
table
replacing
doesn't
COLA.
Doesn't change. Just a simple example. I've got 6 employees. I pay 150,000, I pay 100,000, I pay 150,000. I give each one of them a 1,500 one time. I'm sorry, the groceries have gone up so much this
Yeah,
year.
but what is that
Here's
for? Is that for
$1,500.
merit
That's for
or
COLA.
COLA?
It's in lieu of
instead
COLA.
Of COLA. It's instead of COLA, because COLA moves that whole table up. It means next year that interest that starts the.
Yeah, I get that,
perpetuity,
but then
everything moves
are
up.
you doing a bonus plus a merit?
Merit is not for discussion as far as what Councilmember Holden and I have been talking about. Merit is off the table. It's going
It's
to be
funded,
funded.
it's funded. in
What
full.
we're talking about only is what do we do?
You're
To
talking about
alleviate
not
the
adding
inflationary
to
pressure.
the salary, it's just. a
That's
bonus.
right.
so the thing that you definitely, it's your prerogative to do things. What I explained in my email is that that would impact us from a market perspective. And
How?
police
Because
officers.
it's not added to their actual salary number, when they do a market study, they're not going to encapsulate the bonus that they got. It's gonna be their salary is X and X city salary is X, and there's a disparity. And in that market study, from my understanding, it wouldn't incorporate those bonuses that are given.
So-
Does
so
that make
it's-
sense?
It does.
But
So that's
isn't
a
one of the
tricky,
problems that we have, COLA that is salary based and merit is salary based? Isn't that the problem? So, I mean, as I read this, I see a COLA of 3%, and then I see the current recommended merit would average 3.62. If you add 3.62 and 3, you basically are just shy of 7%. So to me, we have most of the employees having a raise in their salary of almost 7%. And so isn't that where this challenge that we're all discussing comes from? That something's maybe got to give here, because this will be the 3rd year in a row to have an overall combined COLA and merit salary increase of as high as pressing up against 10% to as low as just under 7%. And this is the 3rd year over year we're doing it. Am I on the
No,
page?
you're
with-
right, and I think we were just trying to figure out how do we take care of those that are probably suffering the most from inflation, and that's where our heart was, that's what we were trying to look at and
That's where the
trying to
compassion comes from, of
workshop
course.
and try to show some compassion for those, and I think that goes to what the chief said is, I think what he's explaining is probably coming from the same place. And that's how we approached it, we workshopped this thing and thought, could some of these things work? And that's what we were trying to find out.
And just looking at the numbers again, with the 2,500 that was proposed, what that would mean is around 80,000, anyone above 80,000 would take reduction below what the proposed 3% was. Everyone below that would be, so you have officers, a lot of officers that are 80,000 and above, some of the higher end, and also employees. There would be if a 2,500 is proposed, it would reduce the amount beyond what we have proposed for a 3% for everyone above 80,000 roughly. And it would be given to those below 80,000.
We
Like
knew
I
that,
said.
and we thought that, folks that can get the merit, not everyone gets merit, but at least they're getting the merit, and we try to address inflation a little differently. So we haven't come to a conclusion right here, right now, but that's so all of our colleagues can understand what we tried to accomplish. And it sounds like there's further discussions that need to be had before we make a final decision in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Oh,
but you
we
need
gotta do it
you need to
like
have that
a day or
discussion
two.
now.
Yeah,
This
okay.
direction comes from a quorum of the body, so.
Well, we already found that the 2,500 isn't going to work because it's essentially the same as a 3% COLA increase, so that doesn't make sense. It could be a lower amount. What we've been talking about is trying to shave off at least 100,000 off this total increase in compensation. And how do we do that while also taking care of the lowest end employees? I think that's our objective. And we haven't come up with a way to do it.
Yeah. Correct. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I was gonna say, this is an important conversation because this is happening. And coming up with the right solution is important. I really would have a hard time disrupting the process as it is now. But I have the same concern about those that are struggling and those that are having a little harder time. With public entities, we don't have the flexibility that private entities do. To really talk about a bonus. That's something that I think that the populace really would have to have some semblance to have full transparency.
I think you
The
could.
justification. Yeah, we'd have to have full justification there. But we'd have to be very transparent on the reasoning behind that. But we're also constrained with our budget because as an overall as a city, we're facing some fiscal pressures. But we have to consider that as well.
You know, I could say if you wanted an answer tonight, it would be 2% COLA because that shaves $108,000 off if I read the numbers right. Every 1% increase in COLA seemed like it was about 108.
Yeah,
I looked at the
I
budget
don't think it's
appropriately.
exact. I'd have to add it.
But it's around.
Okay, but it's pretty close. It might be 1,000 or 2 different of that. But because of the compounding effects of percentages, but yeah.
I mean, if you have to do that for this budget and then we address this next year, I hate to keep kicking the can down the road because it sounds like that's what's been happening before. But if you needed an answer tonight, that's a quick answer.
Any other thoughts?
I don't like it.
The only thing
but
that I want to say
I
is,
understand it.
this is the second time that I've been a part of a COLA vote or merit vote, and I'd love, and this isn't going to happen right now, but I'd love to get some more feedback from what people are feeling on the ground, and that's in every single department. I want to know what our folks are dealing with, and are there things that we can do for those people that are. I mean, I remember what it was like. I was a government employee back in 2010. I was making $28,000 and I had 2 suits from the DI. And I was barely keeping it. And I empathize with those people. So I'm hoping, and we may not solve it here today, but I know we had some discussions last time and we were kind of having, maybe not as in depth at this time, but then let's do some more next year. We're here again. And we may be able, work under the current system and see what we can't do next year. But I'd love for all of us as a council to figure out if we're hitting the right mark year after year and how to make a bigger impact for those that are really hurting. So that's all I got to say. Mayor?
Yeah, so it's a fascinating discussion because you almost get a sense that, how does staff not take it personal? That where in reality, we are the oversight of making our city be fiscally responsible too. So we both have competing interests on both sides. And so honestly, at this point, UFA is at 3%. It would be hard for me to say, hey, we're paying our firefighters 3 and everybody in our city 2 at this point. I think we might be too far down the road. I will tell you that I'm for completely relooking at our compensation structure after this year. So I would probably say be in favor of keeping what's in our current, where we're at, 3% across the board for a COLA. And then I've had conversations with involving the entire League of Cities and looking at this, because I have to tell you, every single mayor feels the exact same way that I do. And I know that the council feels the exact same way that you do. And, Tim says the structure's not broken. I have to disagree with him. To me, cost of living is not a real cost of living, how it's being done, but I don't know if I, in a place where I am to say, hey, let's change it completely as of right now. But I would be in favor of looking at a different structure moving forward.
Can we add that to our priorities, even though we set our priority at the retreat? This one seems like it's
100%.
got.
It needs to
be
happen
the-
before that,
it
actually. We
needs to be
can't wait
happening.
until
Right.
January, February to be looked at. And it's actually something why I've started discussions with the league of starting it as a bigger scale discussion.
And the league had talked about, what I remember is that, I mean, let's, as cities, stop competing with each other for police personnel and for others. Let's really start looking at compensation and why are we competing with each other? That would be nice. So you're proposing 3. You're proposing.
Supposing
Stay status quo.
stay status quo with the understanding we are going to take a really hard look at the compensation. And that doesn't give anybody false hope. That everybody would know we are gonna take a really hard look along with others at maybe to get how to get a little bit better handle on things.
You hit it nail on the head. I'm really concerned about how much we're drawing down our general fund year to year.
Well, and another thing that I think we need to take a deep dive in, is also, our pension, fund and how that is looking in 5 years and 10 years and 20 years at the pace that we're moving at. I mean, our revenues projected to come in to keep up with this kind of pace of what we have in place.
Pensions run by the state, right?
Yeah, but we nonetheless have to pay into that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, Scott, you can talk to more about that.
So we have no options to either not pay or not pay. It's, you have to pay basically. You're a municipality in the state of Utah, you're.
Well, I'm
required
not
to-
suggesting that we not need pension. I'm
Yeah.
saying that I want to make sure that we can and do
Yeah,
fully meet our pension
So-
obligations. And that's where I don't
Yeah.
feel that I have the data of where we're heading over the next 10 and 20, 30 years.
we don't have that data either.
You know what's
But why
remarkable?
wouldn't we, isn't it tied to the amount of salary and the,
That all resides at Utah Retirement Systems and they have financial statements and the actuarial, studies and so on and so forth. And that's all with them. We don't have
yeah,
visibility.
but I'm saying
into
our
that stuff.
our city would have access to work with URS to project what our obligation is based on where we're
They're-
taking our salaries.
Well, so let me just add a couple things that they do a really, really, really good job.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, our contributions have gone down, if I'm right,
For-
Scott.
So for
over this
civilians, it went
inflation-
down on officers, it went up just a little bit.
But the year before it went down on everyone, right?
Year before it was even.
It was even. So our contributions haven't even been
Well,
increasing.
I think that's great that they haven't been. What I'm talking about is we are responsible not just for what's happening now. And we cannot, I don't feel that I have any assurance that the trends of what have happened in the last 10 years or 17 years as a city necessarily mean what is projecting out over the next 10, 20, and 30 years. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I think it's great and I'm happy that URS does such a great job. But that to me is one of our financial obligations, is to look and project and see our,
It's largely driven by investments because they have a pool of money that's invested. And they invest it conservatively. I mean, they don't want to lose money, right?
It's actually required by state
Yeah.
statute, correct? Not by
Right.
city statute.
Right.
So the state tells us what we have to do. And so cities don't even have the option to change anything that we do. I am impressed that we've been able to minimize our contributions over the last few years. It's been pretty, when I say minimize, that we haven't had increases at all.
Yeah.
I think to your point, though, this is, what's the cost on the 3%? 750,000, what
What?
the cost on the 3%?
The 3% COLA,
300.
300. Oh, sorry, I'm just saying.
300
comparative.
and
Oh,
I'm just saying
total
holistic.
wages and comp.
Yeah,
That was 790.
something like that. And so I think to your point, though, incomes are not keeping up with that, so we have to. And we may.
What is that?
We all know
total
what it
number,
leads to.
For the COLA,
No, total wages and compensation increases.
total wages and compensation is 497.
497.
497. That's 3% plus the merit.
and the bonuses.
Yeah, that's all.
all.
790.
No, we were given,
No, it's always
It's like
I always do it
324,000 just for the 3% COLA.
Yeah. Three hundred
So then
twenty-four thousand for that, the
3.62
merit is 231, the longevity is 31,000, health insurance.
So
is
merit actually
34,000.
averages, even though two something because of,
So you said 3.62.
well, that's because not everybody gets
Yeah,
it.
not everyone gets it. If you take into account everybody, it's. about
Everybody that's
two.
getting it is
Oh,
averaging
okay.
3
Okay,
point.
that's
Because
why those two
yeah.
percentages are different.
There,
Okay.
there are 22 employees that don't get a merit.
so this is what I'll say, if we have to make a decision right here, right now, today. I think all of us as colleagues should spend some more time and figure out how to maybe do this in a different way going forward, but here today, right now, we're not gonna get agreement on anything other than I think a 3% COLA. And I'm good with that.
And so there's no discussion over merit. That's as your recommendation as the committee on compensation
Merit would
benefits,
be-
merit is, this on merit is gonna stay as it's described
The merit
here.
would require us, if I'm not mistaken, looking at that table from beginning to end. That's a big broad discussion.
Restructuring the, yeah.
I still support looking at the entire system.
Because if it were up to me, I would probably stick with the 2,500 for everybody. But I don't know, it sounds like it's gonna throw a wrench in things and people would have some concerns with that. But that's just. If I was able to choose on my own, that's probably what I would do. But. And I know it
But it's
gives
still
people
partially,
that
you
are
still
under
partially get what we
80.
get, because at the first 3 years, you're getting almost 5% plus, and that would be another 3%, you're getting 8%. If you're on the higher end, you're only getting like 5.5% increase. But I still, yes, I'm sorry, I'm just having ulcers over this.
You and I both. So.
All right,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we didn't need, okay, yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. It sounds like we've got, we've got a majority to move forward with where we are currently.
Okay.
Okay,
If anything else shows up that we become aware of, I'll communicate that through Tim so that you're aware of it at least. We don't anticipate other things other than the one adjustment to the vehicle funding and then the property tax.
okay, perfect. Okay, so the last item under staff reports is, it's entitled sex-based designations for privacy legislation discussion. You're probably all aware the state legislature passed a law that, I'm not even
Go
gonna go, well, that just requires a non-gender based bathroom. Is that a good way to say it? And so, the city was actually already in compliance as far as I understand, but I don't need to say anymore. Why don't you go for it?
Yeah,
Or
so-
Bain as well.
I really appreciate Shane. Shane is, in my opinion, taken the lead in the whole state on developing this policy compliance plan, because we reached out and there's no one else that really has this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shane.
Yeah, there are other cities are working on it. Salt Lake City is a long ways down the road, but I didn't get a lot of other response. The place where we're not compliant is we have to have a policy.
A policy.
And,
right,
and
okay.
so that's what this is, this proposal is a policy that says what the city is going to do in response to its obligations under this new law.
So in our existing facilities, especially our new ones, this one and the Public Works building, we're in compliance. If we build any additional facilities, we'll have to really look at this as well. But what we're proposing is that next 2 weeks from now, we're gonna have this for consideration by the council to adopt this policy. The privacy space compliance plan is what we're calling it. That's all I have.
Any
45
concerns,
seconds.
questions, comments on it?
I read it, it makes sense.
Nope. Okay.
Good, 45 minutes. Good job. Okay, just a quick review of calendars and upcoming events. We have our community shredding event on Saturday, June 7th from 9 a.m. to noon here in the city hall parking lot.
It's not a
Friday. Oh, did I say
Friday.
Saturday? I meant Friday. I would encourage everyone, to take advantage of that. That's a great event. Shred sensitive documents. The art exhibit at City Hall from the beginning of the 3rd yesterday until the 30th is the Miguel Alejandro Pavon exhibit.
Sean, these art exhibits, are they local artists?
Most of them are, but some of them aren't. Yeah.
I love them. Yeah.
A reminder that the Cottonwood Heights Arts Council will be putting on Beauty and the Beast July 12th, 13th, 15th, the 18th, 19th, and 20th, performances at 7 PM and a 2 PM matinee on, the weekend, right? Yeah, the weekend date, Saturday. And then Butlerville's days, oh my gosh, I can't even believe that we're coming up on Butlerville days, July 25th, 26th, and 27th. And the Bark in the Park, which we did once, but we're doing again, that's okay, August 24th. Is there gonna be a look like the mayor dog again?
Sure. Just take a dog, a husky every time.
We love that tradition.
So August 24th from 9:30 to 11. Yeah, we love our dogs here in this.
I think it should be a contest of like the owner and the dog, like who looks the most alike, you know?
Yeah, I kind of like
We would offend a lot of people.
Oh, no, they bring it over themselves, like, there's a lot of people that go, see, my dog.
that. So we do have an item to discuss in a closed meeting concerning,
Oh, before we leave the consent calendar, I know our city manager explained to me that the reason why this Saturday event, where it's the Charm Cottonwood Heights R&M recycling event, what recycling difficult materials, anyways, that it is considered a Utah Alliance for Recycling event. However, in speaking with their executive director and in looking at the materials, it does say it's a co-sponsorship between collaboration between Cottonwood Heights and the Utah Alliance for Recycling, excuse me, Utah's Recycling Alliance. So I would like that to appear in our calendar. I'm not sure why that was
what is the date
excluded.
for that?
That's
It
Saturday.
is Saturday.
We've included in our newsletter, social media, we've advertised it as a partnership. They are the ones sponsoring it and running it. We're a partner in that. We'll
I mean, we
continue
often,
to
don't we
advertise
often
it.
partner? I mean, we have sponsors for Bark in the Park and all kind of things. I just don't understand why it doesn't seem to be being promoted or it's not on the
It's been in the
calendar.
newsletter and it's posted at the library and the rec center. It's on the website calendar and we've done a bunch of social media hits on it as well. So we are getting the word out.
No, but that's not my point. I don't understand why it isn't in part of our calendar.
In this? Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad. that
No,
you
I'm
added
not
it.
trying to be argumentative. I'm trying to understand why it wouldn't be part of this calendar.
I don't know the answer to that, but thanks for bringing it up. So it's.
We
so
just
people
didn't
will
put it
know.
in. That's why. So,
I mean, you know, when we took the presentation from that alliance, I was really excited that this was gonna be a chance for residents to really understand how recycling works and how, you know, why is it that I'm throwing away all my clamshells and it doesn't seem like I really recycle very much of my trash. I mean, so I was really looking forward to this. So when I learned about the event only, 8 days before it was gonna hit along with the public, that for me is a missed opportunity to really ring the bell with the community. So I'm trying to understand,
Well, I don't want to get into it more, but thank you. I appreciate your point,
Okay.
Cory. So we've got an item to discuss in a closed meeting, which is concerning the character and personal competence of an individual. Is that the way to describe it, Shane? You look concerned.
Yeah, and I just remember that we also have a piece of litigation to discuss.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. And also, potential litigation. So if I would entertain a motion, Shane, will you help me with the correct way to do this? A motion to leave our work session,
Open session.
enter into a closed session
To discuss
to discuss
character.
possible litigation and character competence.
So I'll move the motion or to leave our open session to go into a closed session to discuss the litigation and
Personal competence.
personal competency and character.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.